Welcome to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Ables, and whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a café au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to the 211th episode of the Simple Sophisticate, the first episode in June 2018. And today I'm looking forward to talking about our topic because it has to do with something that I've been feeling the last few years, but I could put my finger on it. And in the same instance, I really wasn't feeling this particular thing that I was supposed to be feeling. And so I started to think about how I wanted to break this down and talk about it, because at the core of the mission statement of living simply luxuriously, it's about shedding those societal layers that are placed upon us, often without our knowledge. And when we do recognize that, oh my gosh, that's what I was told to do, that's what I was told to believe, that's what I was told is supposed to happen. When we start thinking for ourselves, we start realizing, oh, it doesn't have to be that way if I live this way, or if I understand how things actually work, when I gain the actual knowledge. So you're probably wondering, what the heck are you talking about? I'll get to that title in just a second. But before I do, today's petit plaisir is so simple, but oh my gosh, so scrumptious. And it was inspired by a recent trip to the farmer's market. I look forward to sharing that with you at the end of today's episode. But now I'd like to introduce you to the sponsor for today's episode. The woman behind the Trues skincare brand is a listener of this podcast. She is a Francophile. She is someone who travels to France often. And she is behind Trues Skincare and Apothecary, which offers botanical facial oils that combine lavender essential oil from the Provence region of France with hydrating botanical oils to bring daily nourishment to the delicate facial skin and décolletage. With just 4 to 5 drops, both morning and evening, Trues facial oil forms a hydration barrier against harsh environments our skin is exposed to during our daily life. Free from synthetic chemicals and harsh detergents, and made in small batches, this woman-owned brand, formulated by the brand's owner, a trained toxicologist, offers products that are all sourced from certified growers maintaining ethical practices. Find comfort in your daily skincare rituals with the best in botanical luxury. As a listener of this podcast, Trues is offering a special discount of 30% off your purchase with the promo code SIMPLE. Visit trueskin.com today. That's TROOSSKIN.com. All right, so let's get to today's topic. In today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about how to stay relevant in our ever-changing world and embrace each year more than the last. I want to begin with a quote that I recently read from a book that just came out last week from Pamela Druckerman. And you may remember Pamela Druckerman. She wrote Bringing Up Baby. Her new book is titled There Are No Grown-Ups, a Midlife Coming-of-Age Story. And you may know or remember that Pamela Druckerman lives in France and has for the past 12, 13 years. She is an expat living there with her husband and their children. And the concept of this book is something I am looking forward to reading, and I'll share a link to the book on today's show notes. And as someone who is in her 40s, she's writing this book from that perspective. As she said, she's living in what she is writing about. So this quote that I'm going to share with you to start off our episode is about just that, a woman who is in her 40s and moving into her 50s, 60s, and beyond. And basically, she's turning things on their head and saying, not so fast, society. So here we go. In America, we have the story that your sex drive evaporates. Nobody wants to sleep with you, but you don't want to sleep with them either. And it turns out that that is really much more of a cultural story than a biological story, and people's behavior responds to this cultural story. In France, there's a slightly different narrative. Women in their 50s and 60s in France are much more sexually active than women in America are. So I don't think you can snap your fingers and switch cultural narratives, but just knowing that it's not biologically inevitable, I think gives you some power over it. I love this quote, and I think that's a huge concept to shift from cultural to biological. What is it that we are conditioned to believe, and what is the truth? What is the science? What is actually possible? So let's get into this topic of remaining relevant in an ever-changing world and embracing each year more than the last. Over the past 4 or 5 years, I have taken notice of how women step into each year of their life after 40. Whether women who are in my inner circle or women in the media spotlight, I listen to how they speak about their physical capabilities, their physical beauty, their curiosities, their chapters in life, the roles and careers they wish to stay or become a part of. As someone myself who is 39 and has truly let my age just be a number, not centering my identity around my age as it is one detail I cannot control, sometimes I have to admit I forget my age. Does that happen to anyone else? I am intrigued in this shift in what is expected of women by women and thus society as they age through the decades, because our message to each other has power. And that message, in large part, tells the world what will be or won't be accepted or ignored. As someone bringing up the tail end of the Generation X and partially straddling into the millennial generation, I certainly have seen a shift in the knowledge and thus attention to good health when it comes to fitness and well-being, as opposed to my grandmother's generation. A tremendous shift in society in the late 20th century brought to our attention what our bodies and minds are truly capable of, so long as we care for them well. I think of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her whip-smart, savvy prowess on the highest court in the country at the age of 85. I think of Dame Helen Mirren, who at the age of 72 continues to thoughtfully immerse herself in her acting career and her life as she explores the world. Have you ever checked out her Instagram? It's fantastic. It's so just Helen. It's just real. If you haven't checked it out, I encourage you to do so. She has fun with it. I think of 52-year-old Oscar-winning actress Viola Davis and her determination and talent on the big screen and small screen, as well as her physical good health, and then Sandra Bullock, as well as Cate Blanchett and Michelle Obama and Diane Keaton, and the list goes on. Each one of these women marries knowledge with curiosity and applies it to their mental as well as physical health. Physical maladies can certainly befall us due to genetics, but there is far more health obstacles that are avoidable so long as we provide ourselves with the information and live in such a way to be preventative. 2 situations happened over the past couple of years that found me responding in frustration internally, but saying nothing in the moment. The first was a situation with my own mother and my young preteen niece, in which my mother said something about what was physically inevitable when you hit her age. In actuality, what she shared was false, and I later did say something in private to my mom, as I am someone who has heard such untruths from older women when I myself was young. I now know that what they shared was their ignorance regarding how the body grows and ages, but I didn't want my niece to have to navigate toward the truth when the knowledge was readily available and I could adjust it right then. The second situation is an ongoing one, as I have a dear friend who refuses to say her age or acknowledge her birthday. And as her husband told me when I inquired as to why, he said she's sensitive about her age. While I will respect and do respect this wish, I also want her to know how much I want to celebrate her, because I think she is absolutely amazing, talented, and uber intelligent. The truth is, if we as women will let go of identifying ourselves with our age, then half of the world will stop seeing us through the narrow lens of assumption regarding what should be happening at a particular point in our lives. We all know that with different people, different things happen at different periods of our lives. Case in point, actress Rachel Weisz is pregnant at 48, yet press in the UK is fearful it may be nearly too late for Meghan Markle to conceive. Are you kidding me? What we consume or accept as a culture can either limit us or liberate us. What we allow to be accepted because we do not contradict it when we know it is utterly false will continue to be perpetuated. We can either speak up or act in such a way that demonstrates the falsehoods are indeed false. Each of us will choose what is most comfortable for us, speaking or acting. But I implore you to not shrink to fit inside the limiting box that society would have women at any age stay within. Part of the difficulty with staying relevant, as we are in this world that is constantly changing, is staying apprised of the dynamic world we live in. With each year, we are layering more information on top of what we already know, and in so doing, we become acutely aware of how much we still have to learn. It can become overwhelming, to say the least. It happened this year to me as a teacher who began teaching at the age of 22 and knew how then to relate culturally with students, their music, the films, the colloquialisms, each far simpler to grasp and understand because I was partially still in their bubble, that I acknowledged and took note that I could be considered 2 generations now removed from my students. That gave me great pause. While I still understood some of the references made by my students, or still understand the references made by my students, there are cultural allusions that no more my students grasp. For example, the 80s hit sitcom Cheers. What? No clue. Nada. Now, there are some cult classics that are returning and being devoured by this current group of teenagers, thanks to Netflix and YouTube, such as Friends and The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross on PBS, and there are many more. But those two are just booming at our particular school. But after listening to different podcasts my students will bring to my attention, or music my students will mention in class that I should listen to, I'm reminded that we all live and will always live in a dynamic world. And the key is to understand how to remain involved, knowledgeable, and curious instead of quailing, shrinking, or removing ourselves or cursing out the other generation, the younger generation, due to fear or confusion or exhaustion. I think ultimately it's just about being aware of this. We're all adding one more day to our time on this planet. All of us, even those that are younger than us. But it is when we realize we have all this information, we have to then understand, okay, how do I decipher it? How do I work through it? How do I learn to then convey my knowledge without being condescending? And it's a process, and it's not something that's going to come easily, but it is absolutely possible. So let's talk about this. There's 2 things I'm going to break down. I'm going to break down how to remain a part of our ever-changing world, and then I'm going to talk about how to enjoy each passing year more than the last. So number 1, under how to remain a part of this ever-changing world. Number 1, build a social network of all ages. One of the benefits of teaching is that there is youth everywhere, each and every year. While yes, it's kind of like Groundhog's Day, the film, the benefits far outweigh the negatives, as I'm reminded that learning is always available if we choose to seize the knowledge, and therefore change is perpetually constant. Progress is always possible, and staying the same is never a good idea if we wish to reach our full potential. And so why not build friendships, acquaintances, mentor, or mentee relationships with individuals of all ages? When we do, and do so with an open mind, our perspective is broadened, our understanding deepens, and we come to appreciate where we've been, how far we've come, or become even more excited about where we are heading. So that's number 1, build a social network of all ages. Number 2, refrain from ageist comments, whether they're comments about the younger generation or the older generation. The quickest way to shut down an opportunity to get to know someone is to make assumptions about what is expected at a certain age. When we do this, instead of seeing the individual and being patient enough to get to know them as an individual, we are telling them, either consciously or unconsciously most likely, who they truly are and who they are capable of becoming is not at all important to us. As well, when we make ageist comments, we perpetuate limitations that we ourselves will eventually be subjected to. In other words, we have the power with the words we do or do not utter to change how society views anyone at any age. So number 2 is refrain from ageist comments. Number 3, master your mind and cultivate a positive mindset. I want to share a quote by Marty Bukela, and they state, "When it comes to staying young, a mind lift beats a facelift any day." Providence St. Joseph Health shares, quote, "Negativity saps vitality and creates stress, which affects your health and well-being," end quote. So literally, by being cynical, negative, or closed-minded, we are exacerbating the aging process and making ourselves physically older unnecessarily. So that's number 3, master your mind and cultivate a positive mindset. Number 4, let go of the word should. Whether speaking to others and expressing what you think they should be doing, or the internal dialogue that runs through your head saying you should be doing something in your life at any given point, stop. Nobody wants to hear what they should be doing. Instead, inspire others to do something with how you live your life, or simply let them navigate their way in their own way. So number 4 is to let go of the word should. And number 5 is seek out diverse experiences that stretch you. Whether with the places you travel to, the food you eat, the books you read, the podcasts you listen to, or the people you engage with in conversation, let your curiosity be fed. Often the reason individuals regress into what they've known and the way it has always been, or when I was younger, constructs, and wish to stay there is because they are fearful of the unknown. What they know is comfortable. And we all somewhere along the continuum do want comfort. However, too often, when we don't know something or anything about a particular culture, a particular way of life that becomes more prevalent in society due to news coverage or a change in economic structure, until we explore, can prompt people to make limiting assumptions that shrink our world. The world is big, vast, amazing, and from my experience with just being here on the blog and meeting all of the different listeners and readers from around it, as well as in my own travels, the majority of us are seeking contentment, love, and peace. This may sound oversimplified, but truly, our general goal is the same. It is a matter of having the courage to keep asking questions, keep making ourselves vulnerable, and recognize that we do not have all the answers, and respecting all people as they too are trying to figure it out. So number 5 is seek out diverse experiences that stretch you. Now I want to talk about the 5 ways we can enjoy each passing year more than the last. The first thing, learn something new regularly. Here is a Hasidic saying, quote, "For the unlearned, old age is winter. For the learned, it is the season of the harvest." I have seen the deterioration of one's mind in late age when a particular octogenarian who prided himself on having only read one book in his life gradually saw the quality of his life diminish. Knowledge is power in not only understanding how to live, but in keeping ourselves vibrant and able to engage with the world fully. Studies have recently been shared that regular cognitive challenges, problem solving, learning a new skill, in other words, brain exercises, are good for brain health. Our brain is something we keep alive, or by not giving it homework passively, we let it wither away. Once we have the knowledge and understanding about how to continue to acquire this knowledge as we move through life, then we can apply it and see the benefits of the efforts we've made, thus the harvest. So keep planting seeds and continue to see your harvest become richer and richer with each passing year. So that's number 1, learn something new regularly. Number 2, choose to understand the world. Providing context as to why events happened, why people made the decisions they made, and why people reacted as they did deepens not only our understanding of the world, but also how to move and live successfully in it, so as to live a life we are proud to share with the world, as well as reflect upon as we go through life. Never settle for one person's version of events. Instead, explore, ask questions, pick up a biography of someone who lived during that particular time, read a historical account from multiple perspectives, and come to understand that the world isn't simple. Events aren't a singular cause and effect, but more often a confluence of causes that create the outcome that after some time has passed becomes simplified in a singular soundbite. As well, come to understand the social sciences, psychology and sociology, and how people interact with others, how our minds work, how our bodies work regarding hormones, endorphins, adrenaline, etc. Choosing to understand the full human experience paired with the events of the world that led to where we are as a world today is empowering and can assist us as we figure out how we wish to move forward. So that's number 2, choose to understand the world. Number 3, contribute to the world. In another study, it demonstrated that we must live in such a way that goes beyond just giving or feeling useful. We must instead take action so as to do something that leaves the world better than when we found it. Taking action will be different for each of us, but just giving of our time to help the next generation isn't enough, but it's a start. Sometimes taking action will not be comfortable for those around us. Sometimes it will not be comfortable for us, as we will have to push ourselves to learn something new, shift our views and understanding about something we had become accustomed to, but now we realize we were wrong, misled, or misinformed. When we find a purpose that fuels us, that we truly have a passion for, we will find the fuel to push forward. And in pushing forward, the example we share with the world will potentially alter how society comes to understand what is possible at any given age. So that's number 3, contribute to the world. Number 4, let go of negative stereotypes and stop perpetuating them regardless of your age. Here's a great quote from Jackie Joyner-Kersee, the great Olympian in track and field. Age is no barrier. It's a limitation you put on your mind. A study conducted at Yale revealed that, quote, older adults who held more positive age stereotypes lived 7 to 5 years longer than their peers who held negative age-related stereotypes, end quote. Not only should we shift away from negative age stereotypes, we should stop burdening others with these beliefs as well. Whether it is our observation and commentary about strangers on the street, in the store, or mere acquaintances, we need to refrain from defaulting to ageist remarks, about those that are either older or younger than us, as we talked about in our previous list. When we assume, we limit what we are willing to explore as we get to know people. And I am confident none of us would want to be limited. So that's number 4. Let go of negative stereotypes and stop perpetuating them regardless of your age. Number 5, revel in each year. Here's a quote from Richard J. Leader. The trouble is, when a number, your age, becomes your identity, you've given away your power to choose your future. End quote. Right now, I am soaking up all that the remainder of my 3rd decade on this glorious planet will share with me. As well, I am excited to enter into my 4th. When we choose to be present in our lives, we create memories that will always be with us. No, we cannot go back and relive them literally, but we can in our memories, and that is a gift we can take with us for any age we reach down the road. Each year has the opportunity to be your singular definition of what it is to be, pick an age. And it is important to remember that that is your definition and yours alone. To place it on someone else and expect them to live the same as you at that age is to limit what they may be curious about. On the flip side, embrace what you are curious about each year. Embrace what the universe has given to you in this particular year and drink it up like it is water in the desert. When you revel, you enliven your being and you share with the world your exuberance. This is how we shift age stereotypes. So that's number 5, revel in each year. And I am excited to say I have a number 6. I misnumbered my list. I have one more. This is last but not least. Number 6 is take a risk. Maybe you've had a dream in your mind for years, but you have never known anyone who took such a risk. At least not anyone in what you perceive to be your situation, whether it be your age, your lifestyle, whatever. Let go of a needed model to follow. Let go of thinking the dream shall remain a dream and instead take the risk. Do the necessary homework and then give yourself permission to get so absolutely excited about living the life you have dreamt about. Yes, you can live that life, and that will enliven you like you never could have imagined. So number 6 is take a risk. From time to time, I will catch myself pushing back against progress when it finds me quite comfortable with where I am in my life, a state that I recognize was not easy for me to attain, and it was something that took me time to get there. But then I poke myself or pinch myself, whatever it is to stop myself from pushing back against progress. It is at that moment that I remind myself that progress is good, as it demonstrates to all of us that we are alive, the world is alive, and has the capability of improving. Even when we think we are comfortable, as I have felt in those moments, we often are limiting what we understand to be possible in the quality of our lives. Often I do think part of the pushback to progress is exhaustion, which is why it is imperative to get a regular night's sleep. I am kidding only ever so slightly. Perhaps this exhaustion that I speak of isn't entirely physical, but emotional exhaustion, as we have seen and experienced and worked for so much, and we don't know if we have the energy to continue to strive, shift, and improve like we have in the past, because we know what it took. But that is when we need to seek out others who see the world and all of its potential as we do. And then we can find the energy we think has been lost. Thus, another reason to build a social network of all ages. The world is greater with more diverse voices, lives, and experiences. And with each year of our lives, we deepen what we bring to the world so long as we continue to truly live each year that we are given. So embrace whatever number happens to be your number right now. And remember that every year can be more rich and amazing, so long as we stop limiting what society deems should be happening at any given age. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Like I said at the top of it, I've been thinking about this for a bit, and I just felt it was very timely that particular book by Pamela Druckerman came out. Again, I look forward to reading that, and in fact, I am actively trying to get her on this podcast as a guest. So if you want to reach out to her as well and say, hey, the Simple Sophisticate would love to have you as a guest, we'll tune in. Please do so. But I am working on trying to bring her onto this podcast. I think she would be a fantastic guest to dive into this subject. Now, on this topic, I have included a few more podcasts, episodes, and blog posts that you might be interested in. One about how to truly savor everyday moments and watch how it elevates your life. I also have a list of 26 ways to create the life you want. And also just, because sometimes it's just a matter of doubting ourselves. I have a post about how to do that. So on the show notes, the Simply Luxurious Life, podcast 211, you can see all those and a few other things as well. Now I will be right back with this week's Petit Plaisir. This week's Petit Plaisir was inspired by my recent trip to the farmer's market. For the past few weeks, I have been going, and the Oregon strawberries have been plentiful. I just absolutely stop and just drink in, first of all, their beautiful red brightness. But when I get to taste them, that flavor is something I've missed for about a year. It's just so sweet in such a most natural way. And while there are some fantastic recipes we can all use these strawberries in, I kid you not, I bought one basket of them last week and I chopped them up, put them in a storage or, to-go container, took them to work, and I was planning on just eating a few, but they're all gone. They were gone in one lunch sitting. So they're just delicious. So whatever the fresh produce is in your neighborhood, in your community, whatever season it is, every time the seasons change, there's a new fruit, new vegetable that we can savor. For me right now, it's Oregon strawberries. Soon it will be something else. So I would encourage you to dive into that particular favorite fruit or vegetable of yours and either eat it on its own in all its gloriousness or incorporate it into a favorite recipe. I've included 3 strawberry recipes that I have shared on the Simply Luxurious Life. Some are decadent and take some time as they are a tart. Others are quite simple as they just simply involve ricotta cheese and a little bit of crumbly granola. So be sure to stop by the show notes and see what those recipes are. And one involves combining it with rhubarb, which is a fantastic spring fruit as well to pick up at the market. I'm getting hungry thinking about this right now. So visit the show notes, the simplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast211. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petit Plaisir, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each Monday's podcast where I'll recommend a book, a film, or a recipe, anything that is a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. Before I wrap up today, just a few quick reminders. The Ask Shannon episode is all set for Monday, June 25th, episode 214. And I have oodles of questions. I'm excited to answer them on all sorts of different topics. You can still send your question in. I'll receive questions through June 12th. So feel free to send them to me at AskShannon@thesimplyluxuriouslife.com. Again, that episode will air June 25th. Episode 214. And last but not least, we are in countdown mode. In fewer than 10 days on June 13th, Wednesday, June 13th, pre-ordering will begin for the Simply Luxurious Life second book. The title will be shared, the cover will be shared, the description, and how you can place an order to get a signed copy with all sorts of other little goodies. So that's next Tuesday, June 13th. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful first full week of June. Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. For more ideas and inspiration throughout the week, stop by the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com, or pick up the book, Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, A Modern Woman's Guide, now available in paperback as well as ebook and audio versions, which are available on Audible, iTunes, and Amazon. And to receive exclusive news as well as an extra dose of inspiration to jumpstart your weekend, subscribe to the Simply Luxurious Life's weekly newsletter, which arrives in your inbox each Friday to enjoy with a hot cup of tea or a morning cup of coffee. Until next Monday, I'm your host, Shannon Ables. Bonne journée.